Here's the 30-second lesson on what legends know. Never practice nunchucks in a crowded room. Never eat chole before a road trip. Always take your shirt off before you iron it. Don't take a call near a swimming pool. And don't forget, saving is not investing. Legends don't just save, they invest in mutual funds. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
The killing began because of the gentle light of the crescent moon. Late in the summer of 1988, in the last days of the long darkness in which a tyrant had shrouded his nation, Shia clerics had declared the coming of Eid. Local Sunnis, however, insisted the month of prayer and fasting would end only one day later. 2 people died in the riot that followed. Led by local politicians, under the benign gaze of General Muhammad Zia-ul-Haq's military despotism, jihadists from Chilam, Dareil and Tangir then besieged Shia villages around Gilgit. The slaughter continued for 3 days. At least 150 people were killed. Those evil memories have revived again. 42 Shia pilgrims, including children and women, were murdered last week in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa's Kurram, a massacre thought to have been conducted by Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan jihadists or TTP jihadists. TTP jihadists have also killed more than a dozen Pakistani troops in recent days, part of a murderous offensive which has seen them stamp their authority across Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and northern Balochistan. Following the massacre, though, this time Shia groups hit back, and in scenes reminiscent of the partition of India, butchery has broken out between Shias and Sunnis. The killing goes to the heart of Pakistan's gathering implosion as a nation-state. Faltering as its nationalist project ran into ethnic and linguistic challenges, Pakistan repainted itself in the colors of religious chauvinism, hoping to hide the cracks. The Islamic State, which emerged in the 1970s, brutalized religious minorities like the Ahmadiyya and the Shia. Even more than the jihadist killing itself has been the erasure of Pakistan's religious minorities from its national imagination. Few in the country now even know that its founding leader, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, was born in the Ismaili sect and embraced Shia custom. Former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, like her father Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, was compelled to disavow her Shia heritage, political scientist Bali Raza Nazar notes. Even former Army Chief Lieutenant General Qamar Javed Bajwa had to carefully veil the Ahmadi roots of his wife, the daughter of war hero Major General Iftikhar Janjua. Living in Lahore at the end of the 19th century, the famous writer Rudyard Kipling witnessed the communal violence which often accompanied Shia Muharram processions. The first tazia, a gorgeous erection 10 feet high, was borne aloft on the shoulders of a score of stout men into the semi-darkness of the Gully of the Horsemen, he wrote. Then, I quote, a brickbat crashed through its talc and tinsel sides. The tazias rocked like ships at sea, the long pole torches dipped and rose around them, while the men shouted, the Hindus are dishonoring the tazias, strike, strike, strike into their temples for the faith. Elsewhere in British India, though, Shia practice embedded itself deeply into its milieu. Awadh's Hindus, scholar Juan Cole records, embraced the Shia hero Hussein as their god of death. I quote, his blood-stained horse and severed head lifted aloft on Umaid staves, presenting no less terrible an aspect than Kali or Durga with her necklace of skulls. And in Hyderabad, Hindu fakirs led the Muharram procession while saffron-clad Hindu pilgrims rubbed incense ash into their eyelids. Through most of the pre-colonial period, there was in fact little significant conflict between Shia and Sunni. From the 18th century, however, theologians like Shah Waliullah Dehlavi began to cast the decline of Islamic power as a consequence of the supposedly heretical practices of the Shia. Later, Syed Ahmad of Rai Bareli best known for his failed jihad against Punjabi Maharaja Ranjit Singh, sharpened these anti-Shia ideas, Nasr records in his work. From the early 20th century, historian Mushirul Hasan has explained, the struggle for political power in Muslim communities sharpened the Shia-Sunni boundary, often leading to violence. Zealots in the Sunni ranks broke cultural taboos by promoting the memory of the three caliphs Shias regarded as usurpers, Abu Bakr, Umar and Usman. Taziyas, some Sunnis argued, were contrary to the spirit of Islam. These ideas began to flower in time in the new nation of Pakistan. Led by the right-wing cleric Nurul Hasan Bukhari, Islamic studies scholar Andreas Reich writes, Sunni groups began to agitate against Shia's religious observances from the early 1950s. For example, religious processions were banned in Sargodha because of Sunni opposition. When a delegation of the right-wing Majlis-e-Ihrar was asked to mediate on the issue, one of its members declared the very word Shia was offensive to him. In 1955, Muharram processions were banned or attacked in at least 25 places around the province of Punjab, that's Pakistani Punjab, while several people were injured in an attack on an Imam Bargah in Karachi. Faced with rising tensions, Reich writes, the government of Pakistan at one point even contemplated making all Shia processions contingent on the consent of Sunni communities. Far from the sweltering plains of southern Punjab, sectarian conflict was also beginning to ignite. For centuries, the mainly Shia Turi tribe of Kurram and their neighbors, the largely Sunni Bangash tribe, had fought over things like pasture lands and water. In 1877, the Turi even allowed the armies of Field Marshal Frederick Slade Roberts to pass through their territories on his way to deliver colonial wrath in Afghanistan, hoping it would win them British protection. The Turi ended up on the British side of the border with Afghanistan after that war and also gained a measure of colonial education. The tribes, though, were both ethnic Pashtun, historian Mariam Abu Zahab has recorded, and these conflicts were read through the prism of their tribal interests, not Shia-Sunni conflict. That would begin to change in the 1930s, though, as riots broke out in Gilgit as a result of Turi celebrations of the festival of Nowruz, the Persian New Year. Following independence, however, these tensions became more and more marked. The rebellion against the Kashmir Maharaja's government in Gilgit led some Sunni reactionaries to darkly proclaim that a Shia state might be formed. And in 1973, Zahab records, fighting broke out after a dispute over the relative heights of minarets in Shia and Sunni mosques. The crisis really exploded, however, after General Zia led Pakistan to war against the Soviet Union's government in Afghanistan. Large numbers of Sunni refugees flowed into the region, provoking fears of demographic marginalization among the Turi Shias. Turi resistance to the jihadists operating from the region led to large-scale violence, with dozens of Shia families being forced to flee Parachinar. Fighting broke out again in 1986, leading up to the massacre 2 years later. There was killing again in 1996, with over 200 people from both communities dying in fighting which involved the use of automatic weapons and mortar. In the plains, meanwhile, groups like the venomously anti-Shia Sipah-e-Sahiba, set up with the support of General Zia, grew increasingly powerful. The organization was closely allied with jihadist groups operating against India, like the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Following 9/11, the Pakistan military's close ties to Afghan jihadists led to growing conflict in Kurram. The Haqqani network, the Taliban's most powerful element, was allowed to embed itself across the region, which offered an easy opportunity to attack Western and even Indian targets in Afghanistan, the analyst Jeffrey Dressler writes. The Jaish-e-Mohammed also established a training camp in Kohat together with other jihadist organizations. Al-Qaeda and TTP forces, Zahab has written, leveled at least 40 Shia villages after the fundamentalist-controlled Lal Masjid in Islamabad was attacked by the military in 2007. That attack led to clashes which compelled the government to deploy helicopter gunships just to restore order. The jihadists even beheaded Shia soldiers and police personnel with impunity. Fresh clashes broke out in 2009 when jihadists blockaded Shia areas of Kurram and killed both officials and tribal elders. 150 odd people are believed to have been killed in just 2 weeks by jihadists operating under the command of Hakimullah Mahsood. The Pakistan army responded by seeking to make peace with its jihadist clients and basically ceded the region to terror. Famously, Pakistani troops blockaded Turi territories in 2010, punishing the tribe for its refusal to allow jihadists to cross through their territories into Afghanistan. In 2012, massacres of Shia civilians took place on the road from Astar. Shia Kafir, the victims were forced to shout before they were gunned down. Even though jihadists have now achieved unprecedented territorial control in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the Pakistani state has unsurprisingly shown neither the will nor desire to restore its authority. The reason isn't far to find. From early in its trajectory, the Pakistani state collapsed in the face of the right-wing challenge, abandoning the project of making a nation. General Zia rebuilt the country into an entity whose legitimacy was founded not on nationalism but on religion alone. The Islamist leader Abul Ala Maududi, one of the patriarchs of the global jihadi movement ideologically, actually endorsed the idea of a Hindu state based on the laws of Manu, where Muslims would be subjugated, even as he demanded an Islamic state founded on the Sharia, where there would be no space for the minorities as full citizens. That Islamic state is exactly what Pakistani jihadists have come close to achieving with the help of the military. This Islamic state, as we're seeing in Kurram though, will be a place of infinite war, not peace and progress. Fanaticism, it's clear, inexorably devours the nations that nurture it. There are lessons in the tragedy unfolding in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa that Indians need to very carefully consider and learn from. I'm Praveen Swami and I'm a contributing editor to ThePrint. Thank you for watching this episode of Security Code.